Hey everyone, welcome to Be the Change. My name is Lily Mott, and today I'm going to be talking about how change comes when you get as many people involved as possible. My guest this week is Estella Struck, and I am so glad I got to talk with her because she's really passionate about the work she's doing, and I think it comes across when she talks about it. Estella is using social media to inform others about the intersections between sustainability and capitalism, among many other topics, and I got to talk with Estella some about fast fashion, which was really interesting. So, without further ado, let's get started with this episode featuring Estella Struck.
Hi, everyone. My name is Estella Struck. I'm 20 years old. I go to New York University where I'm studying sustainability, marketing, and consumer behavior with a minor in social entrepreneurship. And my whole thing is about making sustainability the forefront in business because, business, capitalism, and sustainability are kind of conflicting, but they can coexist and we can use business and capitalism for good. And that's what my platform is about and what my projects are about as well.
Thank you for coming on the show, Estella. I am so excited to get to talk with you, and I wanted to get started by asking you to share a little bit more about your background and how you came to be so invested and so passionate about this work. Can you tell me a little bit about how that progression went for you?
We'll go to the beginning. In freshman year of high school, I started thrifting my clothes because I went to a private school where you had to get a whole new wardrobe for dress code, and I didn't want to spend a lot of money on new clothing. I didn't really care about obviously I cared a little bit about the environment, but I was extremely uneducated and it wasn't at the front of my mind at all. Um, and I just love what I found. And I loved how no one else had the same clothes as me, and I kept thrifting. And then I got more into the environment after my intro to environmental studies class, junior year of high school. And my teacher would cry while talking about climate change. And I was like, what the heck is going on? Like, that is so weird that he's crying while talking about climate change. Like, who's going to cry about climate change? Now I cry about climate change like all the time. But, like, so just seeing his passion. And then I obviously still thought about it my freshman year of college, but I was studying at Wake Forest University and I was studying to be pre-med, obviously not in the sustainability space, marketing space at all. And over quarantine, I dove into TikTok a lot and was learning a lot about sustainable fashion because that's a huge controversial topic on there. So I started this little brand called Ethica, and it started by me just literally I was in Seattle at my dad's house during quarantine, and this was the first time I ever lived there. I didn't know anyone, so I was just DMing random girls with cute clothes in Seattle and being like, "Oh, do you have next time you clean out your closet, can I just come by and grab the clothes instead of you donating them to Goodwill?" And then I started Ethica where I would resell them for $10. I wasn't really trying to it wasn't a sustainable business model or anything because it was just something I was doing because I was bored in quarantine and I saw a need gap, which was cheap, sustainable clothing, to make it accessible to the masses. And then I made a TikTok about that and it blew up overnight. I did one drop with 20 things and I did another drop with 20 things. And when there were about 15 things left on my second drop, it absolutely blew up. And I gained 185K on TikTok and 35K on Instagram in 4 hours. And it was just what the heck? And so then I ended up taking a gap year because I've been thinking about leaving Wake my whole time there. I didn't really, wasn't the best environment. My mental health suffered and it wasn't good for people of color. So I had been thinking about leaving, and that I was meant to leave. That it changed my life. That one TikTok blowing up changed my life because then I got into the sustainability space and saw that there's a huge marketing opportunity with social media. So right now I'm working on a project to help sustainable brands market better using social media and come across more authentic and just be better on social media because there's incredible opportunities to reach mass audiences who actually will put their capital towards helping these brands become mainstream. And I want to be the driving force behind that wave of capital being moved towards sustainability.
That's really cool. And I'm glad that you were able to get to a place where you could get more involved with this work. And I think that it's awesome that you're using TikTok to get those messages across. I love it because it's a great example of really using social media for good.
I was just recently honored for this list. It's for this thing called the conversationalist, and my category is disruptor. And the reason, like, you had to do a 1 minute long video about like what are you doing that's like radical. And I'm like, I'm using social media and I'm being an influencer in New York City in a way that most people aren't. Like, I show the just like how disgusting the city is, all the trash, and like how we can use like how we can use I don't know, just like I'd show like the trash and all that part of sustainability, and just like I literally talk about how we need how we need circular systems all the time because it's so linear. But I kind of just like am disrupting the influencer industry to a degree because of course like I am promoting consumption because I'm promoting sustainable brands, but like I'm not building a platform of 1 million followers just to promote fast fashion. Like I'm trying to use my influence for good and like create change in the industry, and like also infiltrate the influencer space and hopefully have an impact on these individuals who have these gigantic platforms so that they can too like create social change and then profit from social change as well, create their own little social enterprises.
I love that. So, what is some advice that you would give those companies or maybe some organizations or maybe even individuals if they came to you for advice about sustainability?
I think that I like put my foot into sustainable fashion, and I'm taking my foot out of that. Like I hate the fashion and sustainability space because we don't need more sustainable fashion brands. We need to like absolutely like put a cap on the industry like completely, honestly. We need like people and these like people who are interested in business and entrepreneurship and sustainability to tackle issues that aren't being tackled. Like there's so many sustainable fashion brands, so many people doing thrift flips, and I get that that's like the most attainable way to contribute on like a larger scale, but there's like massive amounts of trash, like cardboard boxes for packaging. Like someone needs to create something that has to do with making these systems circular, like disrupting the way that our society currently functions. Selling sustainable clothing is not doing that. So I'm like very much for the do not, like, if you're going to shop, obviously shop from sustainable or like thrift. But I'm like very, it's like ridiculous. I'm like anti clothing, anti fashion, but like I love fashion and I think it's so cool. But I'm just like, the way that like the entire sustainability conversation is focused on fashion right now is actually hindering our society's progression with climate change, in my opinion, because creating more sustainable fashion brands is not going to fix the issue of like the waste problem. And when it comes down to it, it's a waste problem. We need like circular systems, and fashion is not going to be the first one.
I can definitely understand that perspective, and it definitely would be frustrating. So, I got you there. As you've been doing this work, I would love to know if there's any advice or maybe words of wisdom that you really try to live by that you've picked up. Does anything like that come to mind for you?
I think that everyone's at a different like stage in like I noticed myself getting super like frustrated with people who like constantly still shop fast fashion. Like I get like and they're asking questions and they're curious and like, but at the same time, like to ask those questions and have conversations with me and then be like, oh my God, I just ordered something from Shop Cider or Zara. It kind of feels like you're wasting my time a little bit. Like if you're interested in asking me, and like I'm giving you this knowledge that I've like spent 2 years like gathering. It's kind of frustrating to then see you turn around and then like, but it's like I can't expect the change to be overnight. The day you plant the seed is not the day that you eat the fruit. So it's just like, I guess, frustrating to me because I'm the type of person who will be like, oh, I'm learning about something. And then like, what can I do right now in this moment to fix it? Like, how can I help the issue? Like, I learned about the fashion issue, and then I vowed to never shop fast fashion again. Like I just cut it off. It's not even an option in my mind anymore. And like that was relatively easy for me because I didn't have a heavy reliance on fast fashion in the first place, which like I understand a lot of people aren't like that. And so I guess for me, and like this is for everyone, like with every, it's not just sustainability, it's like every social issue, like people are going to move at their own pace and they're not going to get the concepts right away, and you just have to accept that about people. And maybe just like, you know, if the same person's asking you questions and they're not like, if they're, and then they're coming home with 10 bags from Zara, maybe just make it like, I'm not going to talk to you about that topic anymore because it's like frustrating me and it's affecting our relationship or something, you know?
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. And if there was one thing that you wish everyone could know about your work, or if there was something that you wish everyone could understand, what would that be for you?
Well, this is going to be a little bit of a longer answer. Just like, okay, so for me, I used to be like, all everyone says like being an individual, like we, all these platforms are talking about like individual impact, and like that's super important and I'm all for it. Do your individual stuff like as much as possible, but like I'm in New York, I'm an individual who's like, you know, more conscious that I go outside and there are like bags and bags and bags of trash. Like I'll send you a video that if you're posting this on your Instagram, it's like a story of mine and it's actually ridiculous. It goes on for an entire block, and it was blocking, it goes on for a block and a half, and the trash was blocking the sidewalk. I couldn't even walk on the sidewalk. It was so much trash. I'm like, okay, well, me using, you know, shampoo that's in a bar is not really going to fix the issue of the waste. So like focus on your individual impact, but like also we need to figure out how to get these institutions and organizations to actually work. We need to figure out, you know, we need to have people innovative about systems and focusing more on systems that don't require the individual to have behavior changes, but it's still having an impact. Does that make sense? Like we need to think of it not as institution or individuals. We need to think of like meeting halfway. How can the individuals force the institutions to act? Or how can you make it so that, you know, the institutions are forcing the individuals to act? Like, how can we combine it so that it is more accessible for both to have an impact? Because it's not either or, it's both. And it's like both to an extreme degree that like a lot of people, like I can't think of one business that is doing like making institutions act while having individuals act as well. I can't think of one.
I think that's such an important point, and I love the emphasis on systemic change because it's so important, especially with an issue like climate change, because that's the only way that we're really going to make a difference. So, last question for you. Lots of young people, particularly college students, high school students, want to get involved, they want to make a change, but they may not know how or maybe where to get started. Do you have any advice for those people who may be listening?
The work starts from within. Like completely, you can't go out and change the world if you're not living by these ethos that you're telling people. Like imagine if I were to be like, you all need to stop shopping fast fashion, and then I roll up to Zara. Like that's not gonna change. And like it's interesting because like that's kind of what our politicians do. I'm not gonna lie. Like, but we need to really start being intentional with our purchases and intentional with the way that we hold ourselves in the world, because like you can say you care about climate change, but if I see you like doing XYZ when there are so many different options, I'm gonna like question your own understanding of yourself and your morals and like what you believe, because like obviously you have to enact it into your own life. You have to like practice what you preach. And like I'm not gonna go in an interview and say this stuff and then turn around and not do it in my life. You know, I'm gonna like, if you want to see change, you have to lead by example. And that's like small, I guess, but then through leading by example, you can connect with people who impact the way that you see the world and help you to create these organizations or give you the inspiration that you need to create like something new that will help on a larger scale. But it starts small and it starts with you. And it starts within, like it literally starts in your mind before you even make it like come into the material world.
I really enjoyed this conversation with Estella, and I think that her passion for her work really came out during this episode. She is talking the talk with her activism and then applying it to her life and walking the walk too. I want to highlight how Estella emphasized the importance of getting everyone involved in order to make systemic change. She talked about how important it is to get individuals on board, companies and brands on board, and by doing that, and including as many demographics, people, and entities as possible, we'll really begin to see that systemic change, and it's absolutely crucial, especially for an issue like climate change. Estella is using her platform to make a difference by engaging so many different people and encouraging them to pay attention, which is so important because change comes when you get as many people involved as possible. Thank you so much for listening to this episode, and you can connect with Estella through the information I linked in the description of this episode. If you want to talk about anything I mentioned, please reach out to me by email at lily@bethechangepodcast.org or on Instagram at bethechangepodcast. Tune in for my next episode, but until then, be the change you wish to see in the world. Bye, guys.